There we go. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. It's 4:01 now in Pacific Standard Time. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Black History Month event, Amplifying Black LGBTQ Voices, Past, Present, and into the Future. Thank you to the Caring Community Collaboration for the time and energy to put today's program together. And if anybody has questions, please post them in the comment section and we'll answer them at the end. My name is Gregory Richardson. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm representing Trans Family Support Services in San Diego, California. A little bit about me is that I am in charge of the Kylos Connections mentorship program with Trans Family, like a big brother, big sister mentor match program. I've been an LGBTQ activist for the last 9 years through my own coming out experience and transition journey. I'm a proud first generation double grad and headed for my bachelor's to pursue cartooning and animation. As an artist, I talk about socio-political concepts and queer lifestyle through comics, short stories, illustrations, and collage. I create to share the raw experience of our collective queerness while challenging the oppressive systems that we exist under. So I'm going to be introducing the story of Marsha P. Johnson and her legacy for this program. So Marsha P. Johnson was an outspoken advocate for LGBTQ rights and particularly for trans people of color. She was quoted saying, "No pride for some of us without liberation for all of us." Even though she was born male in Elizabeth, New Jersey in 1945, she began wearing dresses at the age of 5. This was frowned upon by her religious family and she was bullied by boys in her neighborhood. She moved to Greenwich Village in New York City immediately after high school at the age of 17. Johnson was one of the central figures in the historic Stonewall riots in 1969, in which many LGBTQ folks, specifically trans women of color, fought back against police harassment and violence. Johnson, along with fellow trans activist Silvio Rivera, formed the STAR organization, standing for Street Transgender Action Revolutionaries, an organization that supported homeless transgender youth and sex workers in Manhattan. Johnson was also an AIDS activist with the organization ACT UP, standing for AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power, from 1987 to 92 during the AIDS epidemic in New York City. Johnson was a successful drag queen who toured with the troupe Hot Peaches from 1972 through the 90s, and she designed her own clothes from thrift store finds. She was a popular figure in the New York art scene and actually did some modeling for Andy Warhol. When people would inquire about her gender, she would often respond by saying, "The P in my name stands for pay it no mind." Although Johnson's life was abruptly ended when she was murdered on July 6 of 1992, her legacy lives on through those she's impacted and through the Marsha P. Johnson Institute, whose mission is to end violence against all trans people across the US, especially for trans women of color. So next I'm going to play a clip of Marsha reading the poem Soul.
Gentlemen, in case you didn't get the message, but I know you did, because I can see that this audience is the message. We have someone to sum it up for you, Miss Marsha P. Johnson.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am say a poem for you called Soul. You can count your karma if Nirvana is your goal. You can shake and you can rattle. You can rock and roll. You can be a Clark Kent or a Lois or an Alice down the hole. You can be a vampire on a mountain with a heart of stone black coal. You can be a leather angel on a sleek black Harley bike. Or a redhead screaming faggot, or a dazzling giant. You can can lock yourself in a closet and find me soul, but it really doesn't matter if you ain't got soul.
Awesome, thank you. And now I'm going to introduce Leslie Miller, who will be reading about the lives of Bayard Rustin and Gladys Bentley. Leslie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie Miller. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm from Smile in Washington, D.C. I will be reading about the lives of Bayard Rustin and Gladys Bentley. Bayard Rustin began his career in activism. He was just a child by protesting against segregation alongside the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Throughout his life, Rustin was involved in countless boycotts, protests, and initiatives aimed at protecting the civil rights of all minority groups. He was an expert in nonviolent resistance, having studied in India with leaders of their independence movement and organized many demonstrations of his own. Rustin played a pivotal role in the Black civil rights movement as an advisor to Martin Luther King Jr. He was a lead advisor to Martin Luther King Jr., also the organizer for the 1963 March on Washington, D.C., which culminated in Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. Leaders of the movement asked Rustin to stay out of the public spotlight for fear of being associated for what was the time his illegal life as a gay man. He complied with staying behind the scenes for a time. Rustin continued to advocate for civil rights until his death in 1987, including LGBTQ rights, a cause he adopted in the later part of his life. Now we will watch a brief 2-minute video of Bayard Rustin.
August 28, 1963, 250,000 Americans gathered in Washington, demanding that Congress put an end to officially sanctioned racism.
Without Bayard Rustin as the organizer, the March on Washington would have been like a bird without wings. It was a sea of humanity. He had the ability to pull people together. He was able to reach out to hundreds and thousands of people all across America. Everybody from the NAACP to the Protestant, Catholic, and Jews. He brought us all together.
They live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
That afternoon, in the shadow of the Lincoln Memorial, a parade of speakers offered words of inspiration to the crowd. Those spoken by Martin Luther King would be heard over and over again for decades to come. Bayard Rustin's would be all but forgotten.
Because of the stigma that attached to homosexuality, most Americans have no idea who he was and what he accomplished. So there's a way that Rustin is really a man without a history, and in certain ways is a lost prophet of nonviolence.
He was gay, and we have not had the courage. We have not had what I call raw courage to honor a man because of his sexuality.
Gays are beginning to realize what Blacks learned long ago. Unless you are out here fighting for yourself, then nobody else will help you. I think the gay community has a moral obligation to continue the fight. Bayard Rustin.
Waiters always look at me and think.
Now I will be reading a reading about Gladys Bentley. Gladys Bentley was a gender-bending performer during the Harlem Renaissance whose stage name was Bobby Minton. While growing up, Bentley preferred wearing their brother suits rather than dresses and blouses. Bentley stated in an Ebony magazine interview, "It seems I was born different. At least I always thought I was." Bentley was teased by their peers and ostracized by their family and ran away at the age of 16. Bentley was known as America's greatest piano player and the Brown Bomber of sophisticated songs. The New York Times said Bentley was among the best known Black entertainers in the United States in the 1930s. Bentley defied the law and publicly married a white woman during a civil ceremony in 1931. The McCarran Act that passed in 1950 prompted a witch hunt for suspected communists as well as members of the LGBTQ community. By that time, Bentley had moved to California to help care for his ailing mother. Bentley was no longer legally permitted to perform in men's clothing and was forced to conform at the whims of McCarthyism and the Black church. They began taking female hormones, married two different men, and proclaimed in an Ebony magazine, "I am a woman again." Many believe this was an act that Bentley put to save their career. Bentley passed away from pneumonia at the age of 52 in 1960. While society ultimately did not accept Bentley's gender nonconformity, they were truly a pioneer who lived as their authentic self at a time when the word transgender did not exist. Now we will watch a 2-minute clip about Gladys Bentley.
Gladys Bentley was an incredible talent on the piano and one of the few women at this time who was really boldly out and unashamed of her queer desires.
They say I don't act right, it's unladylike, how I wanna live my life.
You're the Gladys Bentley. I thought your name sounded vaguely familiar.
1958, Los Angeles, California.
Well, what are you going to sing, Gladys?
I'm going to try to do Them There Eyes.
Them There Eyes.
Blues singer and pianist Gladys Bentley made her only television appearance on Groucho Marx's You Bet Your Life comedy show.
I loved you the first time I looked into them there eyes. Got a cute little way of flirting with them there eyes.
Gladys Bentley, the way that she presented herself was usually in a tux and a top hat, but she also had the makeup. She's always playing with identity and presentation and fluidity.
I have violated the accepted code of morals, but the world applauded my piano playing and song styling. Even though people bitterly condemned my personal way of living, they still could appreciate my artistry as a performer.
Yes, baby, them there eyes.
Gladys Bentley was born in 1907 to a working-class family in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her father was African American, her mother an immigrant from Trinidad.
It seems I was born different. At the age of 9, I stole my brother's suits and began to feel more comfortable in boys' clothes than in dresses.
Early on, she knew that she was attracted to women. She didn't feel like her body represented who she was.
Her parents are concerned about her budding lesbianism. They take her to doctors hoping to cure her, to make her a quote-unquote normal woman. We have the rise of medical experts who study the science of sex, who are introducing terms like homosexual and heterosexual. But most doctors at this time saw same-sex desire as pathological.
Now, I would like to welcome Crystal McKinley, who will be reading about the lives of Ruth Ellis and Miss Major Griffin Gracie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Crystal McKinley, and I am a trans woman of color here today. I am an activist, singer, songwriter, and I'm a representative from Q-Volution from the center of the Las Vegas Center of Nevada. Today, I'm going to be talking about Ruth Ellis. Born in 1899, Ruth Ellis dedicated countless years of service to her community, and particularly Black LGBTQ youth. In 1937, Ellis moved to Detroit with her partner, Babe, where the two bought a house, which from 1946 to 1971 was known as the Gay Spot. Not only did their home serve as a safe space for Detroit's LGBTQ's community, but the couple also offered lodging and help and support to many Black LGBTQ and youth in need. In a time before the gay civil rights movement began, Ellis was a beacon of light for many LGBTQ youth who found themselves in the dark. In 1999, the Ruth Ellis Center was founded in Detroit, Michigan, which continues to offer emotional support, medical care, and housing to LGBTQ in need. She continued working with LGBTQ organizations until her death in 2000 at the age of 101. She is known for being the oldest surviving out lesbian. And now we're going to play a great short video of Ruth Ellis prior to her death.
I don't know. Who would want to read it? Who would want to read the book of my life? I'm nobody. I'm just Ruth. Yeah, who would want to read it?
I met Ruth at a party, at a bar. She was surrounded with a lot of women, and she was dancing, and there were people waiting in line to dance with her.
And I look in there, and the whole floor, there must have been at least 200 people on the floor doing the electric slide, and Ruth was in front, leading the pack, not missing a step, not missing a beat.
Then she wanted to dance, and we danced, and we danced, and I got tired and wanted to go sit down.
Ruth didn't want to take a break. She wanted to keep on dancing. So when we were all sitting down at the table drinking, Ruth had to get up, and she went around to all the other tables to strangers and asked all these very young women to dance with her.
That's how I met people, dancing. I'd go and ask them, may I have this dance? And they said, sure.
Then I also asked her how she could do this. Don't you get tired, Ruth? She said, well, I can sleep. You girls have to get up and go to work the next day, and I'll just sleep for the next 2 or 3 days, so it'll be fine.
I can dance on the upper storm. I love to dance.
Whew. It is such an honor to be able to see my ancestry, the people of my kind, be themselves and fight for change. My next will be Miss Major Griffin Gracie, who was born in 1940 and is still alive. Griffin Gracie, also known as Miss Major, is a transgender activist and community leader whose advocacy efforts focus on trans women of color. Miss Major was born in Chicago, and she came out as a teenager in the late 1950s. She participated in Chicago drag balls in her youth and had a tight-knit community of other gender nonconforming folks. At that time, she was unaware that she and her friends were questioning their assigned gender and much of the current terminology defining different gender identities that did not exist at the time. Miss Major had a tough life early on in a world that wasn't very friendly to Black trans folks. Sorry, just get myself together. She was kicked out of 2 colleges for presenting as female, and over the course of 20 years, she was either homeless, in prison, or engaging in sex work for survival and to afford black market hormones. She moved to New York in the 1960s and frequented the West Village's Stonewall Inn. She was present during the Stonewall Inn raid and stood up to law enforcement with other LGBTQ folks. She was arrested in the riots and was beaten over the head and had her jaw broken by police. She didn't allow this setback to halt her advocacy efforts, and after Stonewall, she moved to California, where she worked with formerly incarcerated trans women who were facing homelessness. And when the AIDS epidemic struck, she worked with several HIV/AIDS organizations in the San Francisco Bay Area, including the Tenderloin AIDS Resource Center. In 2005, Miss Major became a staff organizer for the Transgender Variant and Intersex Justice Program, also known as TGIJP, and later became the executive director. In 2016, the documentary film Major was released, which documents Miss Major's life, including over 40 years of Black trans advocacy. Miss Major is still alive and continues doing advocacy work for the trans community. She now lives in Little Rock, Arkansas, where she founded the House of GGs, a safe haven for the transgender community. She and her partner, LGBTQ activist Beckwith, welcomed a child into the world on January 9th, 2021. Miss Major's advocacy efforts continue to make a huge impact in the lives of many trans POC folks, including myself. Now we will have a clip about Miss Major and her life.
As far as my community, there wasn't anybody at that time for us. It was such a hidden and closeted thing, and not just closeted. It's kind of like, okay, move the table, fold the rug back, climb down into the cellar, go to the back, move the furnace, get inside, pull that back, and we'll shut the door. Too much drama. And now to go places in different cities and see the girls just growing in their selves and, being the person that they choose to be, it just fills my heart. It feels so good. I so admire these younger queens who are out there like Laverne Cox and Janet Mock. They've taken the stuff that my generation has fought and gone through and put it to good use with themselves, to put themselves in a position to be models for these younger kids growing up, so I don't feel it's just me out there fighting to make a difference. Little delicate flower or some gay or straight little kids come over and tell me, one of my speeches changed their life and they're still alive today because of that. It just, it's hard not to just burst into tears.
Amazing human being. I'm honored to have witnessed her legacy. And now I will be introducing Devin Barrington Ward. Devin Barrington Ward's vision for the future is grounded in his lived experiences and personal identity as a Black queer man of Caribbean descent, growing beyond the traumas of youth, homelessness, and navigating Black love, friendships, and community in the midst of immense racial and social challenges, and the potential for a better future. Devin began his advocacy work at 16 years old empowering Black and Brown communities to address barriers to good health, justice, collective safety, and freedom. He began his political career serving as a campaign staffer for Stacey Abrams' campaign in 2006. Since then, he's held many key positions to several elected officials and organizations including Chief of Staff, Senior Advisor, Communications Director, Lobbyist, and Special Assistant. Devin's passion for building Black futures has earned him top honors and recognition from the Gentlemen's Foundation, DC Black Pride, POZ Magazine, and DC Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. Welcome, Devin.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the program tonight and to speak with you all about the importance of always centering the voices, the narratives, and the experiences and the contributions of Black LGBTQ people, and the contributions of Black LGBTQ people. I think that I'm seeing that there may be some challenges with my sound. Let me know if folks are able to hear me or not. And so I think that testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Folks able to hear me? Can I get a thumbs up in the chat? Okay, well, we'll move forward and I'll try and project. And so with that being said, I think that it's important that we center the narratives and the contributions of Black, trans, and queer people. But prior to that, I would like to recite a poem from Lucille Clifton that I think sums up the experience often of Black, trans, and queer people in America and abroad. And Lucille Clifton said, "Come, won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into some sort of life? You see, I had no models, born woman, trans, queer, undocumented, Black. I had no models. You see, I made it up here on this bridge between Starshy and Clay, my hand holding the other tightly. So come, won't you celebrate with me that every day of my life, something has tried to kill me, something has tried to kill us, yet has failed." And I think that sums up beautifully the experiences of Black, trans, and queer people, that oftentimes daily there are so many factors and circumstances in this country that are attempting to take us out. We know that the HIV epidemic is one of those things. We know that homelessness is another thing. We know that racial justice impacts Black, trans, and queer people very uniquely. Police brutality, voter suppression, and the violence that is oftentimes experienced in our communities directed at trans women and more broadly the Black queer experience. But beyond that, we continue to be on the front lines. We continue to fight. We continue to persevere. We continue to contribute to building a future that all of us deserve, because we understand that there is no Black future if the future of Black, trans, and queer people is not safe, secure, and prioritized. And that there's no future for this country and for the world if there's not a future for all Black people, where all Black people are liberated, free, and have the right to self-determination and safety. I am excited because I get to work with living civil rights leaders, living heroes, people like State Representative Park Cannon, who just today in Georgia stood up to Republicans and stood up to the Georgia Highway Patrol as they attempted to suppress and quell political dissent and the voices of peaceful protesters who are protesting House Bill 531, which is seeking to suppress Black votes. And I think that it's beautiful and fitting that in Black History Month, a Black queer woman, a state representative, one of the youngest state representatives in the history of Georgia and in the country, and the first queer state representative in the country, would lead the charge against attempts to suppress the Black vote after so much amazing work has been done by Black organizers across the state of Georgia, including myself. I also want to uplift people like Tony Michelle Williams, the executive director of Solutions Not Punishment Collaborative, who's done so much amazing work to prioritize the needs and the dignity of people of the trans and the queer experience. People like who are engaging in survival sex work. People like DeAndre Phillips, a Black father who was killed in the city of Atlanta after an officer smelled marijuana coming from his car. And because of that, Solutions Not Punishment Collaborative immediately got to work and did the hard work of speaking up, not just for Black trans people, but speaking up for all Black people, but doing it from a lens uniquely that is understood from being trans people and queer people. And because of that, they were able to reclassify cannabis as a non-arrestable offense in the city of Atlanta, cutting arrest rates and cutting the population at our city detention center. And so because of that, we are able to do amazing work that's being led by myself and other Black trans and queer organizers to close our Atlanta City Detention Center and reimagine it so that it can become a center for equity, wellness, and freedom. And the reason why we're doing that is so many of our people are locked behind cages. So many of our people, our most precious resource, are tied up in the criminal legal system, a system that oftentimes provides no justice for us and actually preys on us and removes people from our communities and breaks our spirit. And so it's really important that we uplift the work that all of us are doing collectively to build more pathways to liberation and freedom in our respective places throughout the country, but that we also honor the legacy and the work of Black trans and queer people, because again, none of this is possible without us. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all. I hope that you will follow my organization, the Black Futurist Group, which serves as one of the frontline organizers in the city of Atlanta as it pertains to reimagining the criminal legal system, prioritizing health and wellness of Black and queer people and Black people more broadly, and ensuring that we build a future that all of us deserve, a future that centers the needs of all of us, but a future that is grounded in the visions of Afrofuturists who are oftentimes Black, trans, and queer. And so I want to thank you all for the opportunity. I know Travis will kill me if I didn't say this, but in the next few weeks, I'll be announcing that I'll be running for office in the city of Atlanta, and more details will be coming soon. And so I want to leave you with, it's our responsibility to step up and get involved. It's our responsibility to put our body in places where there is injustice. It's our responsibility to speak truth to power. It's our responsibility to move without fear. And it's our responsibility to claim the reins of this country, because the ideals of America is beautiful, but America hasn't worked because it's never been in the right hands. And it's time for us to put this country and the world in our hands. Thank you. I now have the opportunity to introduce a really great friend that I haven't seen for a while. I used to see them all the time when I lived in Washington, D.C. But now, for the days of the pandemic, I get to see her on forums like this online. So my friend Aurora has broken through several obstacles. In this day and age, it's hard to find a genuine artist who is immensely talented, but there are a select few singers and songwriters like Aurora Lloyd, who just wants to give her heart through her music. Hailing from Philadelphia, but growing up in both Philadelphia and Lithonia, shout out to Lithonia, Stone Mountain, East Side, Zone 6. She has been performing since she was the age of 8 years old. Aurora has created her own unique yet soulful sound and R&B that captures her full artistry. Outside of music, she is an activist fighting to end youth homelessness in America alongside Smile, Making a Way, America, and True Colors United. Currently based in Washington, D.C., Aurora Lloyd has worked with Jaheim, Trey Songz, Busta Rhymes, Ace Hood, Shawty Low, hey, shout out Shawty Low, DJ Khaled, Cyndi Lauper, and really denying her star quality. She released her first mixtape in 2016, and then in 2019, she dropped her highly anticipated EP, which has had the supporting hit single Stay Here and Secret. She is currently recording her debut album, Neptune. The world is not ready for the change that my friend Aurora is about to bring. Ladies and gentlemen, people all around the world, please clap it up for Aurora Lloyd.
Hey, thank you, Devin. I miss you too.
Hey, of course. I miss you. I miss you. We're going to have to talk offline, girl.
We do. It's been far too long.
Absolutely.
So I really thank you to everyone for allowing me to be part of this platform. As a woman of trans experience and of color, we don't always get the spotlight we deserve, especially with the amount of work that we put into our own communities. So I'm more than appreciative that you guys gave this to me. And I spent all day really trying to figure out what I was going to say to you guys. And I think I'm just going to be honest about what it is I actually do and why I guess it's being seen as a game changer or doing something. So as Devin stated, I work with Away Home America, True Colors, as well as Smile. All three of these organizations are organizations that are based on helping the LGBT community deal with homelessness. And so working with all three of them, I get to tackle it from multiple avenues. I deal with it on a everyday level here in DC, where I'm constantly dealing with youth and figuring out ways to help and support them, while also fighting for it on the political front and taking it to Congress and things of that nature and trying to get our government to realize how serious of an issue it is. But then on the flip side, to heal myself, I do music. It's something I've been doing since I was very young. It's something I love. That's all I know. I worked with Devin actually back in 2016 when we did my first video. So it's I don't know how I'm changing the game or if I'm changing the game. All I know is that it's great if you are a person who wants to fight for future generations, but that is not me. I cannot handle the idea that there are folks and there are youth who need us now. That if we do not figure out a way to help them now, they will not live to see and be a part of the future so many are fighting to create. And I say this from a place where I opened up my own home to youth and would work with them and help them to get back on their feet and to be self-sufficient and take care of themselves, because you kind of just have to. You really do. It ain't nobody gonna have us like we got us. And I can't speak for anyone else, but I want them to live to see tomorrow. I want them to live to see next year. I want them to live to see 10 years from now. The suicide rates in our community are astronomically high and ridiculous. And if I can try not to cry, if I can do anything to change that and to drop the rate of that, I will do my best to. I'm all about trying to help people and make it as easy as possible for them to get up the next day. And I think I'll end it with, don't stop giving credit to other people for waking up every day. Give yourself credit because you woke up and decided to go on for your day. We spend a lot of time giving so much time and energy to other people and congratulating them on who they are and what they've done, and we don't give ourselves that same amount of love and congratulations for doing the exact same thing. Waking up and saying what I'm going to do today and making it happen. But all right, that's my spiel. So next, I want to introduce Judah Jocelyn. Judah grew up in Sacramento and has been a longtime queer activist in the Sacramento area, from working to dismantle and defeat Proposition 8 in 2008 to his work on planning committees for Trans Family Day. He has dedicated his work to advancing the priorities of the youth and the LGBTQIA+ community. He identifies as queer, female to male, trans masculine, and genderqueer. He is a loving father of 2 human children and 1 furry dog. He received a BA in psychology with an emphasis in education and social psychology from the University of California. Davis currently is earning a master's in mental health counseling from Oregon State University. He serves as the director of transgender advocacy with the Trans and Queer Youth Collective. He has a passion for using education, knowledge, and community outreach as a tool for bringing communities together to uplift themselves and thrive. Welcome, Judah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. And everything you said was just absolute fire. So thank you. Thank you for those words. It is an honor to be here with all of you. So I work with the Trans and Queer Youth Collective. We provide free mental health and support to trans and queer youth in 6th through 12th grade. And, you know, mental health has really been my passion, especially with trans and queer community. But another passion of mine is really building up folks so that they can be as successful as they want to be, whatever success looks like for them. And a few years ago, I started another organization that focuses on career development, and it's something that I kind of do on the side, just helping people with resumes and things like that. And you know, one of the things that I've continued to come across in the work that I do, both with youth and just in the community and with that organization and my activism, is it is really getting to the root of professionalism and breaking down the barriers that exist within the workplace for BIPOC, trans and queer individuals. And this has become a huge passion of mine is dismantling these barriers and really speaking with organizations and companies to break down these barriers. You know, I ended up having to leave a job myself because of those barriers. It's important for me to be visibly queer and trans, and that was not something that was accepted at the place that I was working, and it really tore me up. And so you know, this is something that I believe that we have a responsibility to really work towards. And I kind of look at it in three areas that I've really talked to folks about. You know, professional standards, right? So we have all of these professional standards that are rooted in this antiquated, you know, white cis het dominated view, right? The dress code, you know, women should wear this and you can't wear this, and you can't have piercings, and you can't have, you know, tattoos, and you can't do this. And it's really a barrier for a lot of people, especially queer and trans individuals. And I am always hoping that folks will, I'm always encouraging folks to get rid of those things, because historically these dress codes and these professional standards are based in whiteness and proximity to whiteness. And they're often rooted in implicit racism. You know, they're often cited as reasons for not hiring somebody or terminating somebody. Often the phrase cultural differences is used. And, you know, we're past that. We're in 2021, and you know, there is no need for us to have these professional standards that that create barriers for folks. And, you know, also talking about, you know, I in preparation for this, I had reached out to a lot of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, and just BIPOC, trans and queer folks, just to get a sense of like, what is it that you need, right? From potential workplaces, or from, you know, workplaces that you're in now. And you know, transparency around salaries is another thing that came up. oftentimes we're encouraged not to have that transparency around salaries and talking about salaries. And to be honest with you, it's classist, and it serves to only maintain wage gaps, especially for trans and queer individuals. It also leads to mistrust. I don't personally trust anybody who doesn't want to talk about their salary. Why not lift everybody up and all of us be on the same level playing field? Some other things that really came up as I was talking to folks about this was valuing lived experiences. As a person who had a lot of privilege and had access to a lot of things, there are thousands of other people who are in same positions as me who didn't have access to those things. And why is it that they don't have the same opportunities for jobs that I have, right? So valuing lived experience over advanced degrees is huge. Just because somebody doesn't have an advanced degree doesn't mean that they don't have valuable lived experience to help them get the job done. And then last but most important is like getting rid of qualifications, right? So you have to have a this in order to do this job. When oftentimes that's rooted in racism, it's rooted in creating barriers for folks, and so often it really creates significant barriers for especially BIPOC, trans and queer individuals. So, I'm always encouraging folks to advocate for themselves, but I really want to move us beyond having folks advocate for ourselves, right? I want the places that we're going into to advocate for us as well, right? I don't want to have to walk into a place where I work and constantly say, oh, you should change this, oh, you should change that. I want to walk into a place and have them go, oh, our rules, our policies, our standards are completely outdated and do not match the way the world is going, and so we're going to change them. And so I'm always advocating and encouraging people to continue to look at their policies and to really center and look at their the demographics. It's not enough to have one Black person, one trans person. That's not diversity, that's tokenism, and that's not how we get to diversity. So really looking at the structures and the policies in place that are preventing organizations from getting to true diversity. And I had heard something not too long ago, but I can't remember the exact phrasing, but essentially was like, we have not been left behind, but rather we have been forced behind. And that really stuck with me, right? Is that, Black and brown, trans, and queer people haven't just been left behind, they've been forced behind. And it is our duty as a society to uplift those voices and to make sure that we are centering them and to make sure that we are providing them with every opportunity and breaking down every single barrier that comes in front of them. It is our job as a society to do that because we have forced them to be behind. And so I'm very passionate about that. But I will end on that. I am so happy that this is here and that I got to hear so many amazing people speak. Thank you all for being here today. The videos from today will be posted on the participating organization social medias and sent out to email subscribers. Please stay safe out there, and we appreciate all of you. And if you want to stick around for some Q&A, we would love to hear what you have to say or what questions you have, or just continue to have that conversation. So thank you all.